chapter 8, which we'll speak about today, is not really worthy of being relegated to one day. The 10 offenses in and of themselves probably deserve 7 or 8 days to cover them completely, but we're going to have time to do that. So we're going to quickly go over everything, and maybe, if there's some time somewhere, we'll have a week on the 10 offenses, but probably not. If any of you are not familiar in detail with the 10 offenses, you should read Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Harinam Chintamani. In that book, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has elaborately described the 10 offenses, because the holy names have the capacity to not only give liberation, that occurs in Namabhas, but in addition, the holy names can award prema. And what stops us from attaining the stage of prema is anarthas, and mainly, practically speaking, out of the anarthas, mainly, we have to avoid aparads. There are 4 kinds of aparads. This chapter is composed, it is number 19 on the angas, or items of devotional service. Rupa Goswami has written, avoiding all seva aparads, which means aparads or offenses while performing or engaged in deity worship. And secondly, avoiding namaparad. This is number 19, offenses against the holy name. Bahu janma kari yadi shravani kirtanam tabhutana paya Krishna pari premazana. So one can go chanting, one can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for millions of births and not get the complete result that the Mahamantra can bestow, which is Krishna Prem, if one's heart is full of aparads. So therefore, in this section here, we are learning about the aparads so we can learn to avoid them. The 4 aparads Bhaktivinoda Thakur has listed in Bhajan Rahasya as that we have to avoid and which stop us from developing our taste in Krishna consciousness are namaparad, aparads which are aparads against the holy name, and this doesn't mean only while chanting, but this is, the namaparads are basically aparads that we commit in devotional service, but because chanting the holy name is the main anga or part of devotional service, they are called namaparads. And then there is seva aparad, and I mentioned jana aparad, just even offenses to ordinary people. And there's one other which I can't remember at this moment. And we said that one. Yeah, I think he put Vaishnava aparad in a separate category, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, although it is the first and foremost of the nama aparad. So these are what will be in this chapter: seva aparad and nama aparad. So we'll go through them quickly. And again, this is number 19. This whole chapter is number 18, which is Rupa Goswami's admonition to avoid all seva and nama aparads. Out of the 2, which is worse, seva aparad or nama aparad? Why?
Because seva aparad can be counteracted by the chanting of holy name and references to holy name.
Just by continuing in devotional service, one will counteract seva aparad. But if one commits nama aparads, there is very little one can do to counteract it. They will stop one from making advancement in Krishna consciousness. So Rupa Goswami has compiled here so many, or rather I think it's actually Jiva Goswami has compiled so many different offenses that should be avoided. First, one should not enter the temple of the deity in a car or palanquin or with shoes on the feet. The reason why is very obvious, but it's not even necessary to know the reason why. One should just avoid it. And what is the obvious reason why? You enter in with a palanquin and a band playing. Here I come. You are so fortunate, Krishna, that you are getting my darshan right now. So no entering in with a palanquin or in a car. Leave the car far away. No palanquins, and of course no shoes on the feet. And if one has been walking around, and you see this especially with the pilgrims, when they come and they're walking around Vrindavan and their feet are so dusty, so one should actually wash one's feet before one enters the temple. So this is humility. And with the shoes, one should walk inside with his clean feet. In Radharaman temple, they will not allow you to wear your socks inside, your dirty socks. And in the winter, it's quite cold still. Number 2, one should not fail to observe the various festivals for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Janmashtami and Rath Yatra. Now one can do this in one out of 2 moods. One could do this, it says that I shouldn't fail to observe it, so I should observe it, I will put in my time. But the other way is to be spontaneously attracted to wanting to offer something wonderful and to observe and be thrilled at the Advent ceremony glorifying the birth of Lord Krishna or his activity of Rath Yatra, etc. One should not avoid bowing down before the deity. What does that mean? One should bow down before the deity. One should not avoid it, and one should do it. One should not enter the temple to worship the Lord without having washed one's hands and feet after eating. But of course, we don't have any problem with that because we always wash our feet and our hands and our mouth after eating. Yes? Of course. But this is not the common practice I noticed when I was in Australia this time. I was so surprised. I hadn't seen this in so many years. So many times, friends of my wife's family and people that I knew previously who weren't devotees, came to the temple, and of course we gave them prasadam. And then after they take prasadam, you say, would you like to wash your hands? They say, no, it's not necessary. And they so, of course, we were like this, at least practically everyone was like this. And so many years ago, I was like this. In Russia, do they do that too? No, yes. Oh, we don't want to talk about this. I don't remember, but anyway, so many people in Australia, they just go like this. I don't see how that's clean.
Should they be eating with their hands?
Well, not with their feet. Right. So many people. So this is not clean. How about in Fiji? Of course, the Indians wash their hands. And how about the Fijians? They also do. So they're better than the Aussies and the Americans. There's a saying, I bathe once a month whether I need it or not. But one should also sometimes with my eyes I tell you devotees who are sitting out there that you shouldn't put your fingers in your mouth or your pens in your mouth and things like that, or put your hands in front of your mouth. This is a silly habit, it is a dirty habit, and we shouldn't do it. If you have this habit, and I stare at you and go like this, and you're going like this, putting a pen in your mouth. Put anything in your mouth other than your right hand when you're taking prasadam. And you should always keep the Maha Mantra on your tongue. So don't put anything in your mouth. Family becomes contaminated for some time according to its status. For example, if the family is a Brahmana, their contamination period is 12 days. For the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas is 15 days, and Sudras 30 days. This also has to do with ladies during their menstrual period. They should not enter the temple for 3 days. This is followed in India and the West. I don't think it's followed even in this country.
It's not for us in practical, we should follow this, or?
I've never heard anyone comment on that. But it seems that if you enter in, you shouldn't be lamenting.
I was just wondering about that because it's like you're supposed to perform a pinda ceremony 8 days after the family of the member was cremated, which is like the day after we died. And so
8 days?
8
What?
days, 7 days,
Anyway.
But anyway, that is usually performed in the temple, and the family members have to be present in the temple to do the ceremony.
This means in front of the deities. But I don't know very much. I don't know about this one. But this is the rule here. If one is in the bodily concept of life, one's mind consciousness will be contaminated. Therefore, Sudras, Sudra means one who laments. Therefore, Sudras, he will be lamenting longer, therefore that contamination period is longer too.
We had this,
What?
we had this for Maharaj, and he told us that when family member dies, then the relatives become affected by lamentation, fear, and one more thing. So because these are materialistic effects, so they are contaminated.
Sometimes in Krishna consciousness we may not follow this one, I think so. Yes. But so if anyone thinks that they are Indian, they should do it. If anyone thinks they're spirit souls, they should also do it just in respect for Rupa Goswami. But also sometimes probably speaking, sometimes it may not be practical to do it. Sometimes we as Vaishnavas. Yeah.
Well, what they do, during that period, they hold the Bhagavad Katha program at the home. So
But that's for general people.
yeah, so they take the opportunity to preach to people.
Nice. Very good. Next. As I say, I don't know much about this one. One should not bow down on one hand. That means that one should have both hands on the ground when offering obeisances. Not sometimes the devotees will hold their beads or something like that and bow down like that, or just bow down like that. Recommended here, both hands to the ground when one pays obeisances. One should not circumambulate in front of Sri Krishna. The process of circumambulating the deity is that one should begin circumambulating from the deity's right-hand side of the temple and come around. I'm not sure what this means. Sometimes I've heard it interpreted, sometimes the devotees go round and round in kirtans. Some people said it refers to that. Shouldn't do that, but I don't actually know. I don't know much about this one either.
In Mayapur they do that.
In where?
In Mayapur, during Kirtan.
Well, everywhere they do that. Not just in Mayapur.
Because I've seen this.
But I don't know if that is what is meant. I'm not sure how to circumambulate in front of the deities, because circumambulation by definition means around the deities. So how could you circumambulate around them in front of them?
When the curtains are open.
So there is,
You know this one?
there's one situation which is not as follows. You stand in one spot and you
They turn around themselves. They spin around themselves.
They say it's the same as going around.
Oh, so they're circumambulating, but not circumambulating the deity. Okay, so one should circumambulate the deity, not circumambulate. Yeah.
Who says that it's not recommended. Just stand at one point and then just spin around. Say Vaishnava, they go to the.
Yeah, so that's what it's referring to. Now it's clear. Outside the temple structure, so in other words, the circumambulation should be of the deity. One should not spread his legs before the deity. We know what that means. That means one should sit properly, not with one sitting in the Bhagavatam class like this. Also, it's like this. One should not like this, like this, like this, like this. And also like this, but with your fingers in your mouth, or your feet in your mouth, nothing like that.
About the mask, we say, is it
What? I couldn't.
putting things in the mask? Is it considered similar to blow on like spiritual practice or any practice?
Yeah, one shouldn't do that.
It's the same.
Yeah. It's not the same. The specific injunction is to not put. To wash, not go into the deity's room, see the deities unless you've washed properly. That's actually what we were talking about. But for the same reason, one shouldn't blow on anything. When devotees, when we first joined, when we would light incense, because we're from the West, we would blow out the incense after we would light it, a flame. But then we were told not to do that, right? We go like this. No one blows on the incense, right? Poland?
Yeah,
But you didn't respond, I was wondering. In the early days, everyone did everything peculiarly in the United States. Prabhupada he never stopped us because he was after the essence of Krishna consciousness. And he told us, if I would tell you all the rules and regulations, you would faint. And literally, we would have fainted and we would have quit. Because no one wanted to hear about you must do this and you must do that. We wanted to chant Hare Krishna. And it was enough following the 4 rules. And which is the essence of Krishna consciousness. But yet these are the practices that are very helpful, and to not follow them will hurt our Krishna consciousness. One should not sit before the deity holding the ankles, elbows or knees with one's hands. Okay. One should not lie down before the deity of Krishna. Sometimes Sahajiyas will do that. Prabhupada will explain this later. Sometimes people will make believe that they're in such an intimate relationship with Krishna, they're talking with their friend and they'll lie down with their friend like Arjuna. Arjuna apologized to Krishna for lying down on the same bed with him. So similarly, some people think, I'm in such an intimate relationship, I can lie down in the temple. But this is not acceptable. So this is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. One should not lie down in the temple room. One should never speak, one should not accept prasad before the deity. So this one will be spoken about later. One time I was in Japan. I had traveled from Hong Kong to Japan with Srila Prabhupada. I was very fortunate. And when he came in the temple room, there were little Radha and Krishna deities in Asakawa-cho in Japan, outside of Tokyo. And one devotee, and his name, Prabhupada somehow named them Roma Harshan. And it was a very appropriate name because he was offensive. Like Roma Harshan was offensive. So this devotee. So as soon as Prabhupada came, he sat on the Vyasasana. The deities were open, and someone naturally came and offered Prabhupada some prasadam. So Prabhupada picked up the prasadam and took it. So Roma Harshan raised his hand. Prabhupada, it says in the Nectar of Devotion. It's true, just like I was teasing him. It says in the Nectar of Devotion that it's offensive to accept prasadam in front of the deities. So Prabhupada just, we were all immediately, Prabhupada just laughed. And he said, yes, there is one injunction that, but there's another injunction that when you are offered prasadam, you should take it immediately. So the principles are mentioned here. Actually, it will be explained later that one can accept the prasadam of that deity in front of the deity. And that actually is explained in one of the commentaries. But one should be reverential in front of the deities, that's the point. So one should not accept prasad before the deity. One should never speak a lie before the deity. So sometimes we read in Chaitanya Charitamrita the story of Jakshi Gopal, or how do you say? Shaki Gopal. Yes, because they are Bengali. So in Shakshi Gopal's story, they made a vow in front of the deity, and because you're not allowed to speak a lie in front of the deity, so this was the tendency in the Vedic times. People would never ever lie in front of the deity. So if someone was thought to have done something improper, they'd bring him in front of the deity, because the deity knows. Okay, did you do it or not? Krishna is here, he knows. Did you do it or not? Go. So in this way, so much lawyers' fees and court fees were saved. Because people had so much faith, they did not want to lie in front of the deity. They also, people, even I think to this day, in front of the people tree, especially on Saturday. Do they do this? Anyone know about this? That people won't tell a lie in front of the people tree. You ever hear that one? How about in Mauritius, South Africa? You know, Saskatchewan. You've heard this one? People won't lie in front of the people tree, right? The representative of Lord Vishnu. Is it every day of the week or only on Saturday? Or every day. So no one will lie in front of God. So pious the people are.
Sometimes they don't lie on the first day of the year.
The first, and then every other year they don't mind. Very good. Koi baat nahi. On the first day of the year, you want to start off properly. Okay, so we should never lie in front of the deity. But also, one should not lie down before the deity, and one should not speak a lie before the deity. One should not talk very loudly before the deity. This doesn't apply to the villagers who come during Shravan. So they're allowed to talk loud before the deity. They don't notice or something. They come in, yeah, you notice it? Oh, bravo! Yeah. In the middle of Bhagavatam class, in front of the deity. This was very hard in the early days, especially for the Westerners to understand. Prabhupada would be giving class around Gopunima in Mayapur. And he'd be giving class, and the local Bengali villages would be filing through. And they would just, they wouldn't even notice anyone else was in the temple room or something was going on. Really loudly. And Prabhupada would just be giving class, continue. He wouldn't be affecting all the devotees. Because it was so hard to concentrate. It was a real test of tolerance. Now they keep everyone quiet, pretty much, in Mayapur. One should not talk with others before the deity. Sometimes we make this mistake. One should not cry or howl before the deity. I'm not sure exactly, but anyway, don't do it. No howling, no crying. Except if you are feeling tears of ecstasy and your heart is melting out of great love for Sri Krishna Balaram Gaurnitai, Radha Sundar, Lalita Vishaka. If you are feeling great love and your heart is melting and tears come to your eyes, then you can cry and it's not offensive. One should not quarrel or fight before the deity, because He is the Supreme Person. We should be attentive. We're there for one purpose, to be attentive to His needs, not get involved in anything else. One should not chastise anyone before the deity. This was when I was a Gurukula teacher. The children, especially now, they're so nice. In the early days, the children would be doing every insane thing they could possibly think of before the deity. Of course not Sahasra Swarupa. But they would be going crazy and doing this and that and beating each other, and then you're thinking, I'm not supposed to chastise them in front of the deity? So it was very difficult for Gurukula teachers. Sometimes we had to chastise them in front of the deity. One should not be charitable to beggars before the deity. We are not the Suridam Sarvabhutanam. We are not the greatest friend of all living entities. That is Krishna's business. So we should not imitate Krishna. We should ourselves be very meek and humble and be begging for charity from the deity. Amito Kangal Krishna Krishna Bole Dai Tava Pate Pate. I am a wretched beggar, and I am begging you for the mercy of the holy name. So this should be the mood, feeling very tiny and insignificant, not the great beneficent one. One should not speak very harshly to others before the deity, because everyone is fallen. This is the mood. We are coming here to see our Lord and beg some mercy from Him. If we are feeling very fallen, then how could we chastise another? One should not wear a fur blanket before the deity. One should not eulogize or praise anyone else before the deity. We can, of course, praise the great devotees before the deity, and that will give Krishna pleasure. Sometimes I've heard that, because in Bhagavatam class we do that, the greater charges, but in some, and we noticed that before offering Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, offering obeisances to each other, the deities are closed. Before worshipping Tulsi Devi, the deities are closed. So the concentration of everyone has to be on the deities when the deities are open.
And what about Jainam couples?
Same thing. We say the Dayam prayers that mention so many great devotees. So I've heard it also said at times that this doesn't refer to great Vaishnavas, especially after they are no longer in this world, but also the general rule. This is a point that has to be worked out. Sometimes the Guru Pujas, Guru Vyasa Pujas of ISKCON, Gurus are done in the temple room, sometimes in front of the deities. This is a practice sometimes that this is done, and the rationale is that Krishna appreciates very much to hear his devotees being praised. But on the other hand, this rule is here, and so there's some controversy about this, and eventually it will be worked out.
In terms of not performing Guru Puja, but offering obeisances to a spiritual master.
Same point, it's going to be worked out. It's a tricky one. The point being here is that one should concentrate on the deity and feeling very small when one goes in the temple room. But the devotees will offer their obeisances to the deities with their Guru Pranam mantra anyway, so they're offering their obeisances.
And he's the representative of Krishna.
Right, so that's on one side, but there are other sides. I'm not an expert on Vidhi Nishedha by any means.
So what should we do on this?
Right now?
I mean, if Prabhupada walked in, you okay with this?
Fast. Fall to the ground. Prabhupada walked in, of course, you do it too.
That is the spiritual.
Right now? Did you ask your spiritual master what to do? Because different spiritual masters may have different feelings about this.
Everywhere you go, it's
So allow me to escape. I don't know. I have my personal feeling on it, but most of them is whatever we decide, no problem. One should not speak any ill names before the deity. Not in a straightforward way or a tricky way. Either we shouldn't say, Prabhu, I defended you when they were criticizing you. The other devotees were saying that you're not fit to eat with pigs, and I defended you and said you are so fit to eat with pigs. So we shouldn't directly or indirectly speak any ill names before the deity, devotees. One should not pass air before the deity. That is improper, obviously. One should not fail to worship the deity, and these are even more true when one is doing puja. They're even more true. When one is actually the pujari or doing worship of the deities, they're even more true. One should not fail to worship the deity according to one's means. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the Lord is satisfied if some devotee offers him a leaf or a little water, even a leaf or a little water. This formula prescribed by the Lord is universally applicable, even for the poorest of men. But that does not mean that one who has sufficient means to worship the Lord very nicely should also adopt this method and try to satisfy the Lord simply by offering water and a leaf. This is cheating. Krishna is the best cheat, so don't cheat Krishna. If one has sufficient means, he should offer nice decorations, nice flowers, and nice foodstuffs, and observe with all ceremonies. It is not that one should try to satisfy the Supreme Lord with a little water and a leaf, and for himself spend all his money in sense gratification. No, no, no. We shouldn't do that. This, of course, is the tendency, and the conditioned living entities are very tricky, and they try to cheat, but they should know that Krishna is the best cheat. They should not try and cheat Krishna. The point is that Krishna is making that he wants in Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yomam Bhakti Prayachati Taraham Bhakti Paritam Asnami, that I will take things. Asnami means I will accept it if they're offered with devotion, with love. So the point is that Krishna is not interested in the quantity, he's interested in the love. So someone who doesn't have love should make sure that they're doing things properly and not trying to cheat Krishna. Saying Krishna is not interested in quantity, so I'll give him a leaf or a flower, and I will spend the rest for my own pleasures. No. It should be done. We should be very happy to give to Krishna. It is the great fortune of the living entity to give to Krishna. It is his greatest fortune. This is our business. This is for a devotee, this is his happiness. Yeah.
There's a point that comes up later that every time we approach the deity, we should make some offering. We should really bring a gift, some flowers or something. But if we're trying to give our whole lives, we're going to the temple every day so many times, does that affect us? Or?
Not really. But at least we should offer prayers. If you think I've already given everything. There's one story where there was one devotee who's gone now, an old disciple of Prabhupada named Hanuman. And Prabhupada gave him sannyas. He was actually a very gross type of fellow. And Prabhupada, when he gave him sannyas, he told him, your service is very gross. But he wanted him to continue doing it. But in any case, after Prabhupada, he offered Prabhupada some in New Zealand. He offered Prabhupada a plate of sweets or something. And Prabhupada took the sweets, and then this devotee took the plate as a memento. And Prabhupada said, that will cost you $10,000. And the devotee Hanuman said, I've already given you my life. And Prabhupada said, I give you my life. And Prabhupada said, you've already given that. This will cost you $10,000 more. So when we go before the deities, we should know, we should offer some prayers, we should be there. When you go before a great personality, you want to please him, so you should think how to please Gaura-Nitai, Krishna, Balama, Radha-Shyam. One should not eat anything which is not offered first to Krishna. In other words, one should eat prasadam. And if we eat bhoga, we will be contaminated. Especially, we shouldn't eat grains cooked by non-devotees. Prabhupada has explained in the Bhagavatam that even a devotee can give birth to a demon if he eats grains cooked by non-devotees. Because the grains contain the soul, something like that. This is described actually in Bhagavad Gita also. The souls come down and rain like that, and the rains go into the grains, we eat the grains, etc. So you should not eat anything not offered to Krishna. You should offer everything to Krishna. One should not fail to offer fresh fruit and grains to Krishna according to the season. After food has been cooked, no one should be offered any foodstuff unless it is first offered to the deity. One should not sit with his back towards the deity. One should not offer obeisances silently to the spiritual master, or in other words, one should recite aloud the prayers to the spiritual master while offering obeisances. One should not fail to offer some praise in the presence of the spiritual master. One should not praise himself before the spiritual master. One should not deride the demigods before the deities. One should not deride the demigods anyway, but especially before the deities.
On the point of taking breaks,
Yeah.
what to do if you're having Sanganan and you've been away from
Don't take grains or offer them.
But it's been cooked in a factory by a machine or something.
I said, don't take them. Eat something else. If you can't do that, I mean, say, if we can make up a real situation. We can make a real good one. Now, what happens if you're on traveling Sankirtan and you're about to die of starvation, and there's nothing but grains cooked by non-devotees? Should you die or should you eat them? So in that case, you should ask Krishna.
I know
in your heart.
A lot of those very
Huh?
I know a lot of devotees are very casual about that.
Hari Baba.
No,
It's not good. Yeah, it's dangerous. It's contaminating. Better to eat fruit and stuff like that, or yogurt or something, but you can offer it too. What do they eat? What do they eat? They. You said they, I don't know. What do they eat? You know, you just don't want to say. What do they eat? What kind of things?
Biscuits. Sort of crackers and stuff that they have with cheese and stuff like that. And you can't obviously somebody.
So one should think that it's not good to do this, and one should make arrangements to live his life in such a way that he follows the principles of Krishna consciousness. I mean, there are so many devotees who go on traveling Sankirtan who don't do that also.
Yeah. It's a question of making prioration.
Yeah. Same thing in airplanes, stuff like that. One should not eat the food. The only way to survive is you make prior arrangements.
Fruit if it's prepared, I mean,
not as bad. Cooked stuff.
In Calcutta during Rath Yatra, they have karmis to cook khichdi in tons, and they offer it to Krishna, offer it to Jagannath, and sell it.
That also they do in Jagannath Puri. On Rath Yatra they...
So is that one of them?
Yeah. On Rath Yatra especially, everyone's allowed to cook and offer food for Krishna. So sometimes in India, Prabhupada allowed, so you can make the question about non-devotees cooking, hiring cooks. In India we do this. That happened in Prabhupada's time too. It's not best, but it's often necessary.
What about eating at the life member's house and having a program?
Don't eat meat. Usually temples and life membership people have standards about this. I know when I was in Australia we wouldn't eat food cooked by people in a house that people weren't vegetarian. Not this year. We wouldn't do that. And first it has to be offered to the deity. That was the standard that we had. And we'd go, and one of our devotees, if the people we were visiting weren't didn't know really enough, he would offer the food himself. They would cook, he would offer it.
Something cooked up by we can avoid, for example, cooking oil or milk.
Yeah.
Those things cooked by.
We're not fanatics. We try our best.
Our cooks here, devotees.
Here? The head cook? Who's the head cook now? I don't know. Krishna Bhakti, I think. Pune Chandrababu. But they hire people nonetheless. And sometimes there's... Oh, in the Gurukula, the head cook, Aravind, he's not an ISKCON devotee. But Prabhupada allowed that. But he's clean. We found with the austerities of cooking in Vrindavan especially, that when you have the devotees cooks, they would never be able, couldn't be steady. It was impossible for them to be steady, and it would cause so much trouble. But preferable is obviously having devotee cooks cook, pure devotees cooking like nectar and offering the food to the deities. We're not going to get through much of this, I can see. What to speak of the Namaparats. Let's see. This is a list of 32 offenses. That was 32. Beside these are a number of offenses which are mentioned in Bharapurana. They are as follows. One should not touch the deity in a dark room. One should not fail to strictly follow the rules and regulations in worshipping the deity. So this is specifically for deity worship. One should not enter the temple of the deity without first making some sound. One should not offer any foodstuff to the deity which has been seen by dogs or lower animals. Obvious, yes. Because, why? Because they will eat it with their minds. And when you're offering Krishna dog prasad, you don't want to do that. And even humans. And also even when the devotees, when they're carrying, even after the prasadam is, food is prasadam, you see when someone is carrying prasadam somewhere, everyone will always look at it, right? And at least for a wish, taste it with their eyes, right? So when we carry prasadam, the general standard is you cover it for that reason. Because it's not proper. And then when someone looks at it, you'll find most likely the devotees will say, "Would you like some prasadam?" Because you have to do that. Otherwise it's offensive. One should not break silence while worshipping. One should not pass urine or evacuate while engaged in worshipping. One should not offer incense without offering some flower. Useless flowers without a fragrance should not be offered. So in some places, in hunks, there's only useless flowers without a fragrance. In so many of the temples, this is the situation. And we have our little white pinwheels here in Vrindavan also, which are useless flowers without fragrance. So someone once asked Prabhupada, what should we do, Prabhupada? And Prabhupada, the flowers don't have fragrance yet. This is Kali Yuga. And Prabhupada said, what to do? When Balavant Prabhu came, we gave him a Mahaprasadam garland from the deities. And it was a rose garland. And he's living in Florida in the United States. Very tropical climate. And he smelled it, he said, boy, it's amazing, these roses have fragrance. He was amazed. One should not fail to wash his teeth very carefully every day. One should not enter the temple directly after sexual intercourse. One should not touch a woman during her menstrual period. One should not enter the temple after touching a dead body. So when the devotees, sometimes when a devotee dies here, and his body is brought to the bathing ghat, and the devotees stay and watch the body burning, and then after the remnants are thrown to the turtles, then everyone turns around and walks away, and then everyone bathes with everything. Bathes with full clothes on, changes their sacred thread, everything. Because it's contaminating. One should not enter the temple wearing garments of red or blue color, or garments that are unwashed. One should, red and blue, Radharani, Srimati Radharani wears blue, Krishna wears yellow. Now red, I'm not sure of the reasons behind this, but this is the rule. And this one is not so strictly followed.
That's what Maharshi is. It's like a royal.
Bhakti Shumras?
No, that is what Maharshi.
I don't know, it's tamasic colors are not allowed.
Rajasic, tamasic.
Yeah, only sattvic colors.
This one isn't followed so strictly.
This breaking silence during worship, what they is?
Well, it basically means when someone is concentrating and worshipping the deity, oh, Prabhu, what time is it? You shouldn't disturb him. You're praying to the deity. Oh, I am the most fallen soul. Please help me. Without your mercy. And someone says, excuse me, what's the questions in the Nectar Devotion class? You don't want, when someone is worshipping internally, he's internal at that time. Should allow him to be internal. That also goes for during japa. One should not enter the temple after seeing a dead body. One should not pass air within the temple. One should not be angry within the temple. One should not enter the temple after visiting a crematorium. One should not belch before the deity. So until one has fully digested his food, he should not enter the temple. In Vrindavan, that might take you a week. One should not smoke marijuana or ganja. One should not take opium or stimulant intoxicants. One should not enter the temple, the deity room, or touch the body of the deity after having smeared oil over his body. One should not show disrespect to a scripture teaching about the supremacy of the Lord. One should not introduce any opposing scripture. One should not chew betel nut before the deity. One should not chew betel nut at all. One should not offer a flower kept in an unclean pot. One should not worship the Lord while sitting on the bare floor. One should sit on an asana. One must have a sitting place or carpet. Carpet means asana. One should not touch the deity before one is completed taking bath. One should not decorate his forehead with 3-line tilak. Means Mayavadi tilak. One should not wear it either. One should not wear it. One doesn't even like to see people wearing this tilak actually. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said if you see a Mayavadi wearing this tilak, you should immediately jump in the Ganga. with all your clothes on. So, especially if you're like living in Moscow or something, it's very difficult. You have to get on a plane. It's to give us the idea that we shouldn't see this. And you see actually in Vrindavan, when you're doing Vrindavan Parikrama, we pass the Soham ashram on this side over here of the Parikrama, that's the Mayavadi side. Over there's so many Mayavadis, and they look so different from the Vaishnavas. All their faces aren't really full of the joy that Vaishnavas have. You can always see them. I don't like to see them. See their face. One should not enter the temple without washing his hands and feet. Other rules are that one should not offer foodstuff cooked by a non-Vaishnava. One should not worship the deity before a non-devotee because they are faithless. One should not engage himself in the worship of the Lord while seeing a non-devotee. For the same reason, it will cause some agitation of the mind. One should begin the worship of the demigod Ganapati, who drives away all the impediments in the execution of devotional service. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Ganapati worships the lotus feet of Lord Nrsingadev, and in that way has become auspicious for the devotees in clearing out all impediments. Therefore, all devotees should worship Ganapati. And I explain that too. Do they do this in Mayapur? No. This is more something other than what we do.
Bhagavan explained that the path which we are following, we are going to follow Bhagavan path, we follow the path. They can remove all of it.
Yes, certainly.
Maybe the other Vaishnavas should proceed, but for us,
this book is for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Still, we follow intelligently according to the instructions of Guru. When a devotee is perspiring, he should not engage himself in worshipping the deity. Very difficult in Vrindavan during this time of the year. Deity should not be bathed in water which has been touched by the nails or fingernails. That's another point. That means that when you're carrying water, and when you're serving water to someone, we see sometimes devotees that carry the water like this. And no, you should never carry it like this, with your hands on the outside of the cup or the glass. Never with your hands. It's something that we don't think of unless we've been trained. Not like this in any way. Always, yes? Did your Guru Maharaj teach you that? You.
Yes, he said the lower portion, hold the lower portion.
There are many other prohibitions. For example, one should not cross or step over the flowers offered to the deities. So actually, it's very difficult because we offer flowers or we're wearing garlands and the flowers fall off and they're on the floor and we step them and they're on the floor. So they actually shouldn't be on the floor and they should be picked up. We should not take a vow in the name of God. These are all different kinds of offenses in the matter of executing devotional service, and one should be careful to avoid them. In the Padma Purana it is stated that even a person whose life is completely sinful will be completely protected by the Lord if he simply surrenders unto Him. So it is accepted that one who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes free from sinful reaction. And even when a person becomes an offender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can still be delivered simply by taking shelter of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In other words, the chanting of Hare Krishna is beneficial for eradicating all sins. So even these aparads and all the sins, everything can be removed by chanting Hare Krishna. But if one becomes an offender to the holy name of the Lord, then he has no chance of being delivered. So we will not just simply rush over the Namaparads in 3 minutes. Somehow or another we'll spend a little time on them, at least, if not 5 days, at least 20 minutes. It means a non-devotee. Food cooked by non-devotees. Huh?
Sometimes. In different situations.
In different situations, like what?
Like program in the house or something.
Yeah, but they're trying. They're not inimical. They're not. If you're having a program in someone's house, they invited you because they're closer. They don't have enmity towards the Lord. So
What about your own home? Food by your
mom. Do you live at home? Before. What did you do?
I didn't know.
Because, see, the food should not just be offered with devotion. It should be actually, the Acharyas explain in the commentary on Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, they explain that the food should be grown with devotion, picked with devotion, carried to the temple with devotion, then cooked with devotion, and then offered with devotion. This is really how to do it. Huh? Takes it with devotion, yes. Sainam Rita cow.
But then Prabhupada said, pay the price if you want.
It's purified. But he didn't recommend that we go and buy food, eat in restaurants and things. The subtle laws of material nature are very, very heavy. So there are certain things that we try to avoid. Bhishmadev said that he was contaminated by eating the... You know how it's described by the Acharyas that Bhishmadev said that he was contaminated. The reason why he had to take the opposing side in the battle of Kurukshetra was because he had taken the grains, eaten the grains of Duryodhana, and it was sinful, so he was contaminated. And then someone asked, well, why was he able to see Krishna and he was so purified at the time of his death? So the answer is because he was shot with so many arrows that all his blood was drained out.